Hello and welcome to India Business Hour. I'm Parikshit Luthra. Here are the headlines we are tracking this evening. Finance Ministry says it has nothing to add to what the SEBI chairperson has said in response to Hindenburg's charges. SEBI says chairperson recused herself in matters involving potential conflicts of interest, but doesn't specify which matters. Mutual funds and venture capital associations back the SEBI chief. Opposition parties demand a joint parliamentary committee probe and urge the SEBI chief to step down till a probe is complete. BJP slams the Hindenburg report and the opposition. Law Minister Meghwal calls it an attempt to stall India's development. Wild swings on Dalal Street, sensex and nifty end a volatile session with minor cuts even as mid-caps outperform. After a sharp fall in early trade, Adani Group shares recover but end in the red. Bharti Enterprises acquires over 24% stake in BT Group, formerly known as British Telecom. Bharti's international arm would be shelling out nearly $4 billion for the stake at current market price. Inflation in July cools to its lowest levels in nearly 5 years thanks to sharp drop in vegetable prices, but industrial output grows at 4.2% in June, the slowest pace of growth in 5 months. Premiums paid to life insurance companies grew by 14% year-on-year in July, but private players see slower growth. However, HDFC Life and Max Life are outliers, seeing strong premium growth on the back of a favorable base. Resident doctors at state-run hospitals across India go on a strike protesting the rape and murder of a 31-year-old trainee doctor inside the premises of Kolkata's R.G. Kar Medical College. The police has already arrested a civic volunteer in connection with the crime. The Bangladesh interim government says that Sheikh Hasina's stay in India will not affect ties between Dhaka and Delhi. Chief Advisor Mohammad Yunus asks ministries to resume activities as soon as possible. The United States accelerates military deployment in the Middle East amid reports of an attack by Iran within days. Leaders of UK, France and Germany back the Gaza ceasefire, pushed by US, Egypt and Qatar, and call for restraint. The top story this evening, the Finance Ministry has reacted to the Hindenburg report, which is accusing SEBI chairperson Madhabi Puri Butch of conflict of interest. Union Law Minister and several BJP leaders slammed the US-based short seller and rejected calls from the opposition for investigation into the allegations made in the report. Economic Affairs Secretary Ajay Seth, who is also a part-time member in the SEBI board, said, and I quote, "SEBI has given a statement. The concerned person has given a statement. I have nothing further to add." End of quote. This follows a statement from SEBI last night saying the regulator has adequate internal mechanism to address issues related to conflict of interest. The statement also said SEBI chairperson Madhabi Puri Butch recused herself in matters involving potential conflict of interest without specifying which matters she recused herself from. On Saturday, US-based short seller Hindenburg alleged SEBI chief and her husband held stakes in offshore funds allegedly linked to the Adani Group. In a statement, SEBI chief said the investment was made when the couple were private citizens in 2015. Hindenburg also cited whistleblower documents to show the SEBI chief owned 99% stake in a consulting firm called Agora Advisory. Opposition parties have called on the SEBI chief to step down and have demanded a joint parliamentary committee probe on the allegations. Leader of opposition in Lok Sabha, Rahul Gandhi said, and I quote, "The integrity of SEBI has been gravely compromised by the allegations against its chairperson." But Union Law Minister Arjun Ram Meghwal and multiple BJP leaders rubbished the new Hindenburg report, terming it as an attempt to stall India's development.
SEBI has given a statement. Chairperson has also made a statement. I have nothing further to add on that. As I said, that both of them have made the concerned person as well as the organization, regulator has made the statements, and there is nothing further to be added by the government.
ऐसे लोग हैं, कुछ ऐसे देश भी हो सकते हैं जो नहीं चाहते कि भारत इतनी तेज गति से तरक्की करे, और उसी का ही परिणाम है कि वो कहीं न कहीं भारत की तरक्की या भारत की जो हो रही है उन्नति, उसको रोकने के लिए इस तरह की कोई रिपोर्ट है.
God forbid something were to go wrong. and investors were to lose their money. Who is responsible? Is the Prime Minister of India responsible? Is Madhavi Buch responsible? Or is Mr. Adani responsible? And finally, the Supreme Court has been looking at this matter. New allegations have emerged. Very serious, explosive allegations have emerged. Is the Supreme Court going to look at this matter suo moto again? Slowly becoming crystal clear why Prime Minister Modi is against a joint parliamentary committee looking into this matter.
Hindenburg Research's recent report puts allegations on SEBI chief Madhavi Puri Buch by highlighting her conflict of interest with Adani Group and therefore raising some serious questions on her credibility. While SEBI chairperson has refuted claims by pointing to disclosure and recusal norms she has diligently followed. Now, Hindenburg alleges Madhavi and her husband Dhaval had investments in two funds which they claim have been used by Adani Group for siphoning off funds. Now, they highlight the involvement of 361 in managing these funds, and report suggests that the first investment in 2015, while Madhavi joined SEBI in 2017. Now, by establishing these linkages, Hindenburg claims that SEBI has been reluctant to probe Adani because of chairperson's involvement. Now, SEBI chief, in her strong rebuttal, has denied these claims and explained that investments in fund was in 2015 as private citizens and states emphatically that at no point did the fund invest in Adani Group's companies. Now, in another point of conflict of interest, the report claims that Buch had interest in offshore Singapore consulting firm Agora Partners and continued with her ownership of Agora Partners despite being SEBI's whole-time member. Now, Madhavi said that all disclosures and recusal norms of SEBI were followed, refuting the charges of the conflict. Not just Singapore entity, but even the Indian entity Agora Advisory India, and Hindenburg claims that Buch has 99% stake in the Indian consulting firm, which, remember, is generating nearly 2 crores from advisory services in FY22, is what the report claims. Now, SEBI chief clarified by saying that the two consulting companies became immediately dormant on her appointment with SEBI and that her shareholding in them were explicitly part of her disclosures to SEBI. Now, apart from linkages to Adani Group, the report also claims that Madhavi had conflict of interest with global private equity firm Blackstone, and Hindenburg's report says that Madhavi Buch used her position to benefit Blackstone in REITs in India and that her husband Dhaval Buch is acting as an advisor to Blackstone despite no experience in funds or capital markets. Here again, SEBI chief clearly refutes claims by disclosing that Blackstone Group was immediately added to Madhavi's recusal list maintained with SEBI when Dhaval was appointed in this position. Now, in two statements yesterday, Madhavi Puri Buch has emphasized repeatedly that all disclosures and recusal norms of SEBI were diligently followed by her, and SEBI chief stated that instead of replying to show cause notice, Hindenburg has decided to attempt a character assassination of SEBI chairperson.
The market makers in Dalal Street are throwing their weight behind the SEBI chairperson and hit out at Hindenburg. The Association of Mutual Funds in India termed the allegations as an attempt to undermine India's market progress, adding that the financial system remains secure. The Indian Venture Capital Association also backed the SEBI chief. In a statement, the IVCA said allegations made by Hindenburg are unwarranted and reflect a lack of understanding of the Indian regulatory environment. Banking veteran Kiki Mistry also criticized the Hindenburg report, saying that it was based on meaningless interpretation.
According to me, it is based on a meaningless interpretation and correlation of completely unrelated events. The market has taken it very well. I don't think anyone in the market that I know of has taken this seriously as something which will disrupt the market or create any kind of uncertainty. I think the regulatory framework is extremely robust in India. I'm associated a little bit with some of these regulators in various matters, and I can tell you with complete confidence that it is extremely robust.
Most of the Adani Group stocks started today's trading session with sharp cuts, but shares recovered as the day progressed to end off their lows, but still ended in the red, lower by between 1 to 4%. The group saw market capitalization of close to 20,000 crore rupees being wiped out. Sensex and Nifty ended mildly lower, even as mid-caps clocked healthy gains. Bank stocks also ended in the green. Bharti Global, the international arm of Bharti Enterprises, agreed to buy 24.5% stake in British telecom major BT Group from Altus UK. The shares will be purchased through Bharti Global, owned Bharti Televentures. Bharti Global is likely to sell out $4 billion. Deutsche Telekom, which holds a 12% stake in BT, has responded to the stake sale, saying that they are looking forward to having a long and good working relationship with Bharti Enterprises. Here's Sunil Bharti Mittal, Chairman Bharti Enterprises, talking about the deal.
We got this opportunity to buy a very important block of shares. It's almost very difficult and hard to buy such stock in the market. It takes a long period of time, and we have uncertainties of pricing and all that. Here was a block which was having a willing seller who moved in to make this offer to us, and we quickly decided to take this in. And that's the really short, background to that. Our investments in the UK are already there for the last several years. And this is an addition to that journey that we have had in this country to put in more capital and work here.
Thanks so much for that. So this is a big global corporate development where Bharti Enterprises will be acquiring a 24.5% stake in British Telecom. Now, Bharti Enterprises is the owner of Bharti Telecom, which has stake in Bharti Airtel. And British Telecom, BT as we know it, is Britain's biggest broadband and mobile company. Now, what's interesting is that this is a very large transaction. British Telecom's market cap stands at £13.8 billion, which means acquiring a near 25% stake involves an outlay of nearly $4 billion for Bharti Enterprises. That's close to about 32,000 crore rupees. Now, justifying this, Sunil Bharti Mittal, the chairperson of Bharti Enterprises, says this investment demonstrates the confidence that we have in BT and UK. BT has a strong portfolio of market-leading brands, high-quality assets, and an experienced management team with a compelling strategy mandated by the BT board to deliver value over the long term. Now, the way this transaction is structured is immediately Bharti Enterprises will be acquiring a 10% stake, and the balance 14.5% stake will be acquired post the regulatory clearances. Also, life is coming for a full circle because British Telecom in 1997 had acquired a 21% stake in Bharti Airtel, which they held on till 2001, and now it's the reverse. It's the Indian entity which is going out there and acquiring Britain's marquee telecom company. Now, what will you watch? As I said, this is a very large transaction. Bharti Enterprises will be spending close to $4 billion to acquire this 24.5% stake. So will this in any way affect the investments that the promoter entity has to make in Bharti Airtel? Also, remember, there is that expected Singtel block deal. So, that's something that the street will be watching out for. Directly, maybe no impact, on Bharti Airtel. The stock didn't react because there is a degree separation between Bharti Enterprises and Bharti Airtel. But a large commitment by Bharti Enterprises also will raise the question is that if tomorrow Bharti Airtel requires that investment, how will Bharti Enterprise be funding that?
It was yet another quarter of losses for telecom player Vodafone Idea. The company posted a net loss of over 6,400 crores in the first quarter. However, this is the lowest loss posted in the last 5 quarters. While revenue, EBITDA and margin are lower than the previous quarters, the average revenue per user came at 146 rupees, which is same as last quarter, but more than 139 rupees year on year. India's consumer price index for July cooled to 3.54%. This is the sharpest fall in nearly 5 years, and this was driven by a drop in vegetable prices. However, industrial output growth slowed to 4.2% in June, the slowest pace of growth in 5 months. Lata Venkatesh joins us now with the details. Lata, take us through the inflation fine print.
Yes, that's right. It's a bit of a mixed picture that is coming on the macros, but the more important number is CPI because monetary policy is based on the CPI coming down to 4%. 3.54, hurrah! Does it mean that the MPC will move towards a rate cut? No, because the Reserve Bank had guided that we are going to see a fall in inflation in July, August, September because of the base. Year ago, the July inflation was 7.44, and therefore the current number was always expected to come below 4. It is transitory. It will move up towards the 4.7 mark as we come to the third quarter as per RBI forecast. But within this, we need to be happy that the CPI number is below market expectation. Our own poll was 3.64, as you know. And within that, the food inflation, which we thought, which our poll said would be 5.5, has come in at 5.4. That's also a minor positive. Going ahead, the monsoons have been better than their start. In fact, they are now running at 107% long-term average, as the RBI said. So that would mean that food inflation, the worst, is clearly behind us. Vegetables inflation was the sore point. It was as high as 29% last month in June. Now it's a much more manageable 6.8% year-on-year rise, which means that the worst of the tomatoes and potatoes inflation is also behind us. Pulses is still a sore point, 14% higher YOY, but still better than 16% higher YOY in the month of June. So prices are coming off. The one set of prices that have gone up, or at least the year-on-year number looks higher, is core inflation, up at 3.4% compared to 3.1 in June. That could be because telecom tariffs are getting included. We saw the recent hikes by all the three major telecom companies in the country. And the core inflation will also rise because the base effect is eroding. Core inflation was very high in the first half of last calendar year in 2023. It was ranging from 6 to 5%. But as you get further into 2023, it falls to 4%, and therefore the base will make the core inflation higher. There are not too many fears about core inflation except the base effect, simply because the global force factors, both China and US, seem to be disinflationary at this point in time. Very quickly on industrial output, the number is disappointing at 4.2%. Our own poll was expecting above 5%, but this is not a number that is used for policy. It's an input, one input into GDP, so not to worry too much. The worrying number in the manufacturing, in the IIP number, is manufacturing, which has come in at only 2.6. Within manufacturing, consumer non-durables has come in at minus 1.4. So clearly the consumption wheel is not kicking, and the capex wheel is slowing. It is only 2.4% from 2.9% in the month of May. So it's nowhere near the double digits that it was 2 years ago. It could be a passing phase because the government didn't spend much during election time, but the output side bears watching. Mixed picture from macros, therefore, good news on inflation. Growth, well, a little bit below expectation.
Life insurance data for the month of July is out and the industry is growing at a strong 14%. However, private life insurance companies have seen a slowdown. Max Life posted the strongest numbers with premiums in July, up 28% on a yearly basis, followed by HDFC Life, which saw premiums grow 34% year-on-year on a favourable base. Meanwhile, SBI Life's numbers came in weak but on a very strong base. The GST Council is likely to meet in early September. According to sources, the Council is seeking approval from states for a meeting on 8th and 9th of September. Timsi Jaipuria joins us now. Timsi, what is the likely agenda of the next GST Council meeting?
Well, that's right. What we are given to understand from sources is that the GST Council is now slated to meet in early September. A formal proposal has been sent to the Council members seeking a clearance for the meeting on 8th or 9th of September. Meanwhile, when it comes to agenda, it's going to be a packed agenda, starting from rate rationalization exercise to begin. Remember, Finance Minister is on record saying that yes, now the group of ministers under the new chairmanship has to meet, give stock of the situation on the rate rationalization exercise so far. And yes, discussions now need to begin how to see that further rationalization can be done in the rates under GST. Apart from that, Council members will be updated about the recent DGGI notices that have been sent to Infosys, to 10 foreign airlines operating in India. Also, the discussion is likely to be on the claims of DGGI raised against foreign shipping lines. So let's see what all is there on the agenda, how these particular agenda points are treated when the Council meets early September. Back to you.
UP government has decided that road tax waiver policy for hybrid cars in the state will continue till October 2025. Sources say that this comes after the state's chief secretary met representatives of auto majors like Hyundai, Tata Motors and Maruti to address their concerns. Senior government officials have maintained that there has been no significant impact on EV sales since the road tax waiver was implemented in June. The Delhi High Court has indicated that it will pass orders on pleas by SpiceJet's lessors seeking pending dues on Wednesday. The court asked lessors if they are ready to take details on personal assets of SpiceJet's promoters in case of further default. Remember, SpiceJet had offered to pay its dues in weekly installments till the 30th of September. Oyo founder Ritesh Agarwal has invested 830 crore rupees in the company. This transaction has been done through his wholly owned entity, Patient Capital. The investment will bring the total funding for its latest round to 1,457 crore rupees and will take Agarwal's stake in Oyo from 29.9% to 32.5%. Chief Economic Advisor Anantha Nageshwaran has said that there is a need for real-time data for policy interventions. Speaking at an event in New Delhi, the CA added that there is also an urgent need to align GST data with official statistics.
Dr. Garg and the ministry are very actively working on bringing out the periodic labor force survey more frequently on a quarterly basis, etc. Because right now we do have a quarterly basis for urban employment data, but obviously the rural employment data are available once a year, and there is a lot of efforts that is currently going on.
And coming up on India Business Hour, the Bangladesh interim government says that Sheikh Hasina's stay in India will not affect ties between Dhaka and Delhi. Details in just a bit. And you can also catch all CNBC TV 18's news and updates on Facebook, X, Threads, Instagram and JioCinema. The big national story, the gruesome rape and murder of a 31-year-old trainee doctor at Kolkata's RG Kar Medical College and Hospital has triggered a nationwide protest. Resident doctors at state-run hospitals across several cities, including Kolkata, announced an indefinite strike and halted all services that are not urgent or medically necessary. The doctors are demanding an impartial investigation and adequate security for medical staff. In Delhi, AIIMS doctors put forth several demands, including the need to hand over the case to CBI. West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee met the victim's family. She announced that the case will be handed over to the CBI if the police fails to arrest all the accused by Sunday. The police has already arrested a civic volunteer in connection with the matter. In what comes as the Bangladesh interim government's first official reaction, Foreign Affairs Advisor Mohammad Tawheed Hussain has said that the Sheikh Hasina's stay in India will not impact bilateral ties between the two nations. Remember, Hasina has been staying at an unknown location in the country since her escape from Dhaka last Monday. In a response to a question during a press conference, Hussain said, and I quote, "The bilateral relationship between the two countries is not influenced by the presence of one individual in a country. Bilateral relations are a significant matter involving mutual interests from both sides. India has its interests and Bangladesh has its own," end of quote. Meanwhile, Mohammad Yunus, the chief advisor to the Bangladesh interim government, asked ministries to resume activities as soon as possible. He also called for a meeting with Hindu students and community members today after reports of widespread violence targeting minorities. And staying with global news, Middle East continues to remain tense. United States has accelerated military deployment in the region amid reports of an attack by Iran within days. Leaders of UK, France and Germany have backed the Gaza ceasefire push by US, Egypt and Qatar and called for restraint. Meanwhile, Israeli army has ordered Palestinians to evacuate southern Gaza. This comes after more than 100 people were killed and dozens injured after Israel attacked a school sheltering refugees. Hundreds of families also fled Khan Yunis yesterday in an attempt to seek refuge. Russia and Ukraine have begun accusing each other of starting a fire on the grounds of Russian-occupied nuclear power plant in Ukraine. The International Atomic Agency has said that the workers inside the plant saw dark smoke coming out of the northern area of the plant. The fire was extinguished later and radiation levels were under control. The Olympic Games at Paris have drawn to a close with a star-studded science fiction-inspired light show at the Stade de France. The fortnight of athletic excellence saw 125 records broken as 10,000 athletes from over 200 countries competed in 32 sports. The United States of America topped the medal tally with 40 gold and 126 total podium finishes. China also earned 40 gold medals through the games, but fell short after winning fewer silver medals. India finished 71st with a silver and 5 bronze. However, it was a tournament of many firsts for the Indian contingent. Manu Bhaker became the first athlete from India to win 2 medals at one game. Bhaker was also part of India's first shooting team to make the podium at the Olympics with Sabharjot Singh. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Business Hour. Thank you for watching. News continues right here on CNBC TV 18.